This is the iPhone's new capture button. I've had some time to spend with it, and here are my thoughts from the good to the bad to the ugly. Well, first, what is the capture button and how do you use it? The capture button is a new button announced with the iPhone 16s that is found on the right-hand side bezel below the power button. And this thing is made to control everything cameras on the iPhone. Here's how it works. One press will open the camera app, and another press will take a photo. But if you lightly press it, a sidebar will come up, and that's made to control the rest of the functions of the camera. If you do a light double tap, it'll come up with lots of options. They are exposure, depth, zoom, cameras, styles, and tone. You can scroll through these by moving your thumb up and down over the capture button and then lightly pressing on the capture button to select it. Then you gently move your thumb up and down over the capture button once more to control the function that you have selected. There is one more control, I will touch on that later. Okay, starting off with the good. I really like how this button feels. I feel like the biggest example of this is when you're taking a video and you want to zoom in and out. Instead of using the scroll wheel that it gives you, it's really nice to be able to move your thumb up and down the side of the phone to zoom. I feel like getting the grasp of using this button is really easy as well. I mean, Apple does this with most of their products. The animations, most notably the camera opening animation, is really smooth and really clean. It's just something nice to look at. I like how you're able to take a long-range selfie with this button without covering any cameras, which is a really big problem when you're trying to take it with the volume up and down buttons. And I feel like the execution with that has been done just right so that there's not too much camera shake when you're actually taking the photo itself. And finally, I really feel like they've tried to pack in lots of different controls into this capture button. While this is a good thing, I feel like I do have some other thoughts that I will touch on later about this. Okay, that's the good, now the bad. You see, the thing for me is I don't really understand why we have a capture button in the first place. Because all the functions that the capture button is housing is in a menu that you can access that is just above the normal capture button. And that it was just a thing that they can announce in one event. And everyone's freaking out because it's like, oh look guys, look, my new iPhone, it has a new button, new trick, I can open the camera really quickly, look how cool this is. But I feel like with the restrictions that brings, Apple can't really expand on it because they've said this is a capture button, dedicated capture button. It's not like the action button where they can expand on its stock features and can implement new features. But while we're on the subject of the action button, let's talk about that as well. Because you can map the action button to open the camera and then from the camera, take a photo. Unless you're really dedicated to fiddling around with these settings on the side of your phone instead of just in the menu below, is there really a point? Well, some would say no. No, there's not. So I really feel this capture button is sitting in like a halfway house situation. Do we need it? Do we not? I mentioned earlier how easy it was to take selfies with this and how you just press the button so easily. But I feel like this comes with its caveats as well. Because if you have more than one thing in your pocket, or you're just moving around a lot, I feel like you're gonna get a lot of pocket photos because of the ease of the pressing experience of the button. I think the same applies to bags in that sense. Stuff is moving around, stuff is gonna press the button. You're gonna pull your phone out and see like 100 different photos of the inside of your bag. And I just think, especially with that, if your default is video and something in your bag accidentally presses the button, you're going to be draining a lot of battery if your phone is just taking a video of the inside of your bag without you knowing. So that's something to watch out. Maybe Apple can integrate something to stop that later on. I also feel like this new button adds a layer of complexity that maybe you just don't need because you're not really using your phone as much. And look, I've got a new button on the side. I'm trying to figure out what it's doing and how you use it, but I just can't. Okay, just before we get onto the ugly, I'd like to take a break from tearing away at this button to talk about today's video sponsor, Adam Knocks Tech. Adam Knocks Tech is a free to subscribe to channel on YouTube that creates fun and interesting tech content that you'll find enjoyable, making him one of the best channels to subscribe to on YouTube. So if you want to get involved in the Adam Knocks Tech community, there's a button down below that you can click to get subscribed now. Okay, jokes aside, now let's talk about the ugly. And what I mostly mean by the ugly is the hardware. Okay, but let's clear my hands first. As far as looks go and feel goes, this button is really nice. But then what do I mean by hardware? Well, I'll tell you what it's all to do with. Positioning. And for me to explain what I mean by this, just let me show you. I like to hold my phone like this, but to use the capture button, I have to sort of crawl down the phone to get to it. And that's only in portrait mode. When it comes to landscape, I like to hold my phone like this when I'm using two hands. I have to move my fingers so far along to get to the capture button. What I mean is, it doesn't seem the most accessible button in the world. And for Apple, that goes against mostly what they've done in the past. I feel like with my phone in these positions, it's more likely to drop, which is not a good thing. And finally, we have the cases situation. Some case companies have been going like this, which is what we've opted for, but I've seen other companies have a whole cutout for the button like this, and I can't imagine that feels very nice when you're using it. I've also known people in the past who've just reused their cases between their phones because they're the same shape and size. But with this new capture button, you can't do that because then with an older phone's case, the capture button is inaccessible, meaning that these people have to go and buy new cases, which I can understand is a very first world problem, but it's a niggle nonetheless. Okay, I did say I was going to come back to the last function of this button, and that's all to do with Apple Intelligence. Apple claims that when Apple Intelligence comes out, you'll be able to tap and hold the capture button and it will tell you what's in front of you, a bit like Google Lens. But this is so much more convenient than Google Lens. Here's an example. You're in the Dubai Mall aquarium. You see a big cool fish that you want to know the name of. You take out your phone, unlock it with the password, scroll to the Google app, open the Google app, open Google Lens, and then take the photo. That's a lot of steps. With the capture button now, it's as simple as taking out your phone, tapping and holding, and Bob's your uncle. So in those situations, I can see the capture button being very useful because that way I was never going to miss the really cool fish. Okay, so finally, is the capture button a good addition to the iPhone 16s? So it really depends on you here. If what I've highlighted as good things is definitely a good thing for you and you really want that, yes, this button is definitely a big upgrade. If you don't really need those things and you don't want to cope with all the niggles that come with it, no, this isn't a good button. But do let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. If you found this video interesting, make sure you get subscribed because we have more stuff like this coming up soon. Thank you so much for watching and enjoy the rest of your day.